and we're going. Oh, hi. We're going to try this again. This is Jack Burton, Kevin Augsburger. We are going to go through my 2015 NCAA Men's Championship basketball brackets real quick. So, yeah, without further ado, let's go. This should be pretty quick. Share out my screen here real quick. There we go. Everybody should see it now. So we're going to run through this guy, and here we go. So let's get started. The big favorite is Kentucky. So I've got them beating Manhattan. I think Manhattan's going to beat Hampton. Steve Maciello is a former Cat. Just full disclosure, I am a Kentucky Wildcat fan. I actually just got back from Nashville yesterday, watching the Cats take care of business down the SEC tournament. So I think they're going to romp through the tournament. But anyway, this is still going to be fun. You know, that's what we're here for, just picking games. So Kentucky's going to beat Manhattan. And I think Manhattan beats Hampton. But Steve Maciello's got a good team with Manhattan Jaspers. I just don't think they're nearly as good as they were last year when they almost upset Louisville. But Maciello's got a good team, and he'll do some good things down there. For the 8-9 game, I think Purdue's going to beat Cincinnati. Purdue plays a good style. They've got A.J. Hammond, who is really, really good. I just think that in the end, Purdue, you've got that one team that has a really the best player on the court, and that's going to be Purdue with A.J. Hammond. So they beat Cincinnati no problem. Let's see, West Virginia, Buffalo. A lot of people are saying that Buffalo's kind of the sexy 12/5 pick, and you know what? I tend to agree with everybody. This is kind of the one. I like Buffalo. Bobby Hurley coaches that team. I watched them play Kentucky really well in Rupp Arena. Not personally, but I watched it on TV, obviously. But I did. So that's pretty interesting. I do think Buffalo is going to take that one. West Virginia is inconsistent. They are a really good defensive team, but they can go just ice cold shooting, and I think Buffalo can give them fits with the way they play. They certainly won't be scared by a name like West Virginia. Maryland and Valpo. I like Maryland here. I watched them play against Iowa State here in Kansas City. That one I did see in person. Des Wells and Melo Trimble are really good. And while I like Valpo, it's a fun Cinderella pick. I just don't see Mark Turgeon and the Terrapins going down with that game. So we'll move on to the 6 versus 11, Butler against Texas. Rick Barnes cannot win in March. Butler gets it done. I don't think Butler has as strong of a team as they have in the past, but Texas, as long as they've got Rick Barnes, they're not going anywhere. Notre Dame and Northeastern. This one is actually kind of interesting. Mike Brey doesn't win in March. Mike Brey is Notre Dame's head coach. He's got a really good team. I mean, they did win the ACC, but at the same time, I just don't see that team. I don't know. I haven't seen Northeastern play. I don't really know a whole bunch about them, but I think Notre Dame gets it done and takes care of it. It might be a close game, but I think they get it done. Wichita State, Indiana. Wichita State is chomping at the bit to get to KU. I live in Kansas City, and I know how much Wichita State fans hate the fact that KU ducks them every year. I mean, and I don't blame KU because KU doesn't get anything out of playing Wichita State right now. You know, if they lose to them, guess what? You're now the number 2 or even 3 major program in Kansas. So, you know, why would you go down and play them on their court? Make them come up and play you. So I get that, but it's the matchup the Wichita State fans have been chomping for a long time. And plus, Indiana, as long as they've got Tom Crean, they're terrible. I mean, Tom Crean is the worst. I hope Indiana keeps him forever because he's just a bad coach. KU and New Mexico State. New Mexico State's not a bad team. They're actually in the BPI, the Basketball Power Index from ESPN. They're actually ranked the highest of the 4 15 seeds. Like they're number 88 in the BPI. That's still not great, but it's better than like 150 and 203rd like the other ones are. Nonetheless, I think KU gets past that game to set up a really fun matchup in Omaha, Wichita State against KU. We'll go ahead and finish out the Midwest before we move on. Kentucky Purdue. Like I said, I think AJ Hammond's really good. He's a fantastic player, but Kentucky's just got too much size, too much power. They'll just overwhelm Purdue and they'll move on to the Sweet 16. Buffalo, Maryland. You know, Buffalo could give Maryland problems with their defense. But I don't know. I've got a hard time picking against Maryland in this game. I know Turgeon hasn't had a whole bunch of success in the tournament, but I think he gets it done. I think it'll be Kentucky and Maryland in the Sweet 16. Butler, Notre Dame. I think Butler moves on over Notre Dame. Like I said, I just don't think Notre Dame's that good. Mike Bray, if he makes it out of that first weekend, I will be very, very surprised. Now here's the big one: Wichita State, KU. Like I said, I think Wichita State fans are going to be jacked. And if you think, even though that game's in Omaha, there will be more. I think there will be more Wichita State fans than KU fans there. Or if not, it's going to be about 50-50. And I think Wichita State wants this game really badly. KU's depleted. They don't have Cliff Alexander. He's probably not going to play the rest of the year because of the NCAA violations. I really think Wichita State is going to take this one. Let's see here. What else? Let's move on to the next one. Who's next? So now we've got the Sweet 16 matchups. Like I said, I think Kentucky wins the whole thing. Maryland's a really good team, and they should not be sad that they made it to the Sweet 16. They just got put in a bulldozer upper bracket, and I think Kentucky takes down Maryland no problem. Plus, once they start getting the name teams, I think Kentucky is really going to turn it up and take out some teams. Butler, Wichita State. I think Wichita State beats Butler and sets up a rematch of one of the greatest college basketball games I've ever seen in person. Kentucky, Wichita State last year was unbelievable. I cannot wait to watch that game again. I know Wichita State doesn't have Clee Anthony early this year, but they still have a fantastic team. And I think a rematch of that game would be at least half as entertaining as it was last year. It'll be a really fun game to watch, and college basketball will be better for it. But in the end, I still think Kentucky beats Wichita State just because that Wichita State game, even last year, they were very evenly matched, and Kentucky played way above their heads in that game. But this year, Kentucky has a lot more manpower. They've got a lot more experience, and I just think they crush Wichita State. Well, I think it'll be a good game. I wouldn't be surprised to see it be a double-digit win for them, though. Let's see here. So next, let's go over to the East. This is a really weird region. Villanova got a I won't say an easy bracket because they got a tough bracket, but this one I think is pretty wide open. I think Villanova takes down Lafayette to begin with. Lafayette's just a bad team that got on a good run in their conference tourney, but I think Villanova's good enough that they'll take care of them pretty easily. NC State, LSU. I've watched LSU play Kentucky really close, so I know they've got two fantastic players in Jordan Mickey, and who's the other guy? It's Jordan Mickey, and there's one other guy. I just can't think of his name. But they have some really, really talented guys on their team. I think Johnny Jones just he's got a really good class coming in next year, but that doesn't help him out right now. NC State has beaten some good teams in the ACC, but I have a hard time picking against LSU because I know what they're capable of, and they're going to be very happy they made it into the tournament because they were kind of on the bubble. So I think LSU beats NC State. I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I feel. Wyoming, Northern Iowa. Now, Wyoming is one of those other sexy picks at number 12. That could upset Northern Iowa. I've watched Northern Iowa play Wichita State. I just don't think that Northern Iowa's that primed for an upset. I think Northern Iowa takes it. I think they're pretty good. I think they beat Wyoming. I don't think that's anything, I don't think that's one of the 5-12s that's going to end up in an upset. Let's see here. Louisville, UC Irvine. Man, I really, really want to pick against the Cardinals, the Dirty Birds. But at the same time, I kind of think Louisville takes this game. I don't think UC Irvine. I don't think they can shoot the ball well enough, and I don't think they have any presence. I have Mamadou Ndiaye, like a 7'6" dude on their team, with one of the coolest names in college basketball. But at the same time, you got him going against Montrezl Harrell, or even the 21 feet of suck that they have on the rest of the roster. And I still think Louisville ends up taking that game. But I think UC Irvine puts up a really good fight. Providence against the winner of Boise State and Dayton. I think it's going to be Dayton because Dayton's going to be playing on their home floor for that Tuesday or Wednesday night matchup. So I think it's going to be Dayton. But at the and I like Archie Miller as a coach. I really like Archie Miller as a coach. I think he's a great coach. I think he's going to do really well. He won't be at Dayton for much longer, especially after the run he had last year. And if he can make another run this year, I think he could certainly work his way into a higher level job next year, especially with like programs like Alabama already firing Anthony Grant. I think they could have a really good. He could have a really good offseason and get to a higher program. That being said, they're facing Providence, who I watched play Kentucky really close. Well, not really close. It was a double-digit win for Kentucky, but they played well. They won't. They're going to be ready for March. I think Boise. Well, I'm sorry. I think Boise loses to Dayton, but I think Providence probably gets over Dayton in the end. And that brings us to the 3:14 Oklahoma against Albany. Nothing against Albany, but I think OU and Lon Kruger take care of business there and move on to the next round. Michigan State, Georgia. Man, I've watched Georgia play Kentucky in two really close games. Mark Fox is a really good head coach. I really like Mark Fox. I also really like Tom Izzo, the head coach of the Michigan State Spartans. I don't know. Michigan State's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team. They've been playing really well as of late. They did really well in the Big Ten tournament. And they almost beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament to win the whole thing. But I just don't know. I just don't know if they can match up with Georgia's athleticism. I really want to pick Michigan State in this game, and it's dumb of me to pick against Tom Izzo in the NCAA tournament. But I think Georgia gets that upset, and I think they move on. Virginia Belmont. I think Belmont's a decent team, but at the same time, I think Virginia is a really good defensive team, second best defensive team in the country, behind Kentucky. And I think Virginia takes it. I don't think they'll have much problems with Belmont. The teams that are going to give Virginia problems in the tournament are going to be teams that can either shoot the lights out from three, like Duke did when they played them, or it's going to be a team that can basically shut them down because Virginia can't score at all, and Virginia could really give teams problems. All right, so round of 32 matchups here. I think we got Villanova moving on. I think they'll beat LSU. I do like LSU's athleticism, but I think Villanova is just a better team. I think they can shoot the ball well. I think they can handle LSU's athleticism, and they'll take care of business there. Northern Iowa, Louisville. Northern Iowa does not have the athletes to match up with Louisville. Northern Iowa is a very streaky shooting team. If they hit threes, they can really do some damage and beat Louisville. But I just don't see them beating Louisville. I think Louisville gets it done, and they take care of business against Northern Iowa. Moving on, Providence, Oklahoma. I like Lon Kruger. I like Oklahoma's team. I've watched them play a few times this year, but at the same time, I just don't know that I can. I, I, I don't know. I think Providence is a good team also, but I think Oklahoma probably takes it. And that game right there, I think that could be an upset, a 6-3 in the second round. I do like Providence. I think they're an athletic team. They could give Oklahoma some problems, but I don't think Oklahoma is going to have any issues um, in the long run. Georgia, Virginia. Georgia, man, if they're playing well, I think they are an athletic team that is good enough to beat Virginia. And I kind of want to pick Georgia in this game, but at the same, because like I said, I like Mark Fox. I think he's a good coach. It's just going to be a matter of, and they're not going to be scared. They played Kentucky twice. I think if Mark Fox comes up with a good game plan, they can beat Virginia. It's really tough for me to go against Virginia because I think they are the best 2 seed. Actually, no, I take that back. They're the second best 2 seed behind Arizona. Man, that one's tough. I'm going to say, it sounds really stupid, but I'm going to take Georgia. I just don't think Virginia can get past what Georgia can do offensively to them. So it comes back to here. We got Villanova, Louisville. I think Villanova is probably the only team in this bracket that can beat Villanova. But at the same time, I don't think that Louisville can necessarily hang with Villanova. I mean, it sounds like I'm saying the two exact opposite things, but it's a little. I don't know. That's a tough one. I won't say it's a pick 'em because it's certainly not. But I kind of think that Villanova takes out Louisville, and that thus endeth Rick Pitino's run. Then Oklahoma, Georgia. I think Oklahoma hangs with Georgia. I think Georgia gets to the Sweet 16, and that's probably it for them. Just because they'll be spent by that point, and I think Oklahoma is a much better team than they probably will have faced, and Oklahoma will have time to prepare for them. And if you know what you're getting into, it's a lot tougher to beat a team like that. So you've got Villanova, Oklahoma in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four, and I think Oklahoma can probably get to the Final Four there. Villanova is going to have a tough time matching up against athletic teams. Like I said, I think that LSU Villanova game back in the second round or third round, whatever it is now, I think that matchup poses a problem for them. But we'll see how everything goes. So let's move on. Let's go to the West next. So in the West, I think Wisconsin takes care of Coastal Carolina, no problems. Coastal Carolina is a bad team that won their conference tournament. That's about all there is to it. And I think Wisconsin is probably the second best team in the field. I think Kaminsky and Sam Decker and Bo Ryan's team are really good, and I really hope Kentucky does not see them in the Final Four, but I think they probably will. Oregon, Oklahoma State. Oregon had a really good run in the Pac-12. I just don't think the Pac-12 is very good at all outside of Arizona. I like Oklahoma State. They are a up and down team, but I do think they get the job done. I think I'm going to end up picking all 9s on my bracket, but you know what? I think all the 9s take care of business. Arkansas, Wofford. I've not watched Wofford play at all this year. That being said, I have watched Arkansas play twice against the Kentucky Wildcats. And while Kentucky can handle what Arkansas does, when you're another team and you see that coming at you the first time you play that 40 minutes of hell style, it's really tough to win. Arkansas, I think, takes care of business and moves on. And I think Arkansas could have a decent run this year. North Carolina, Harvard. I would love to see Harvard pull the upset again, see Tommy Amaker's team get to the round of 32. And Daggum Roy, he he has a good team. They are playing much better now than they were at the beginning of the year. I think his team is finally learning how to play together. But at the same time, I think Tommy Amaker, a Duke grad coaching Harvard, I think he really wants to get that win against North Carolina. So I could certainly see Harvard pulling the 13 over the 4 upset and getting to that one. That being said, I know I already put them up here, and I'm trying to reason myself out of it in my head because Eastern Washington against Georgetown is probably the 13 over the 4 that's going to happen, but I think I'm going to leave this as is. I like that storyline, Tommy Amaker against North Carolina. I think Harvard does it. Xavier against the winner of Ole Miss and BYU. Xavier is a good team. That being said, I think Ole Miss and BYU are good teams too. Well, at least Ole Miss. I think they're a decent team. They're one of only 2 teams to take Kentucky to overtime this year. You know, I really want to pick Ole Miss. Because I'm certainly not picking UCLA. Yep, we're going to take Ole Miss. Ole Miss makes it to the round of 32 over Xavier. I think Andy Kennedy's team is a streaky shooting team. If they get hot, like they have the last 2 tournaments, I think they could be in good shape. Baylor, Georgia State. Any team that has Ryan Harrow running the point is not going to win. So Baylor moves on despite having Scott Drew. VCU and Ohio State. I like Shaka Smart. I really like Shaka Smart. I really think Ohio State has had a good team, but I don't think they're that good this year. So I will say VCU. Now, they've been kind of disappointing towards the end, but I do think they end up pulling it off. No. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay. So, yeah, we're going to keep going here. I hope everybody was able to see those. If they weren't, I apologize. So anyway, let's keep going. Let's see. So VCU's up. Arizona, let's go to that one. Let's see here. Arizona, I think they take care of business against Texas Southern. Arizona, I think, is one of the better teams in the field. I don't think they have any problems getting through there. Wisconsin, Oklahoma State. Like I said, I like Wisconsin. I think they are a better team. I like Travis Ford too, former Kentucky guy, but I just don't think he's that good. And I think his team got really lucky beating a depleted Kansas team towards the end of the regular season. And I just think their run ends here against Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's just going to overpower them between Kaminsky and Decker. I just don't think they can do it. Arkansas, Harvard. While I would really like to see Harvard make it to the Sweet 16 and play Wisconsin, I just don't think they can do it. I think Arkansas moves on. Bobby Portis and Michael Qualls get to play another day. I really like the duo of those two, Michael Qualls and Bobby Portis. Those are 2 really good players who will play in the NBA, and I think they can get it done against Harvard with their 40 minutes of hell pressure. Ole Miss against Baylor. Like I said, I like Ole Miss can get on a streak. They can start shooting the ball lights out, and if they do that, they will win. That being said, Baylor's got size and talent, and they're starting to play well together. So I think Baylor can actually make it to the Sweet 16. I think Scott Drew might actually get over his little, Scott Drew can't coach thing this game. We'll see. But I like Baylor in that one. VCU, Arizona. VCU, I think, is a really good team. Like I said, I like Shaka Smart. I think he's a great coach. He's probably your next coach at a major university. They might try to hire him down to Alabama. I doubt he goes there after they just fired Anthony Grant, but you never know. That being said, I think they are playing one of the most athletic teams in the tournament next to Kentucky in Arizona, and I think Arizona gets it done there. For your Sweet 16 matchups in this region, Wisconsin, Arkansas, I think Arkansas can play them really, really well, and I think they can give them one hell of a game. At the same time, though, I have a problem uh, rooting against Wisconsin with that team. Wisconsin is probably one of the only teams that can hang with Kentucky, and I think despite Arkansas's pressure, I think, well, I say that Arkansas's pressure that their pressure defense that they play can wear a team like Wisconsin down. Wisconsin is not very deep. You get past their first five, and they really don't have anybody else. So if they can force Wisconsin into a fast style like they want to, it could cause Wisconsin a lot of problems because Wisconsin wants to slow the game down, play really slow, and that could be the formula that Arkansas needs to win that game. But I just don't see Wisconsin speeding up their game to match up with them. So I think Wisconsin takes that game in the end. A really intriguing matchup down here, Baylor and Arizona. I really like what the Baylor Bears have done this year, despite having Scott Drew. I think they've played really well and they've come together really well. Arizona, though, I think is probably going to be just too much for Baylor to handle, and I think they go on. I think Tarczewski's is one of the best college players this year, along with Stanley Johnson. And then Wisconsin, Arizona. Man, I would love to see another repeat of Kentucky, Wisconsin, but I also want to see them play Arizona. I think Arizona, Wisconsin's a tough matchup for just about everybody in the country. I would really like to see Wisconsin play Kentucky again, but I also think that I think Arizona and Sean Miller can beat them. Sean Miller can finally get over the hump and make it to a Final Four, and take care of some of his naysayers. Okay, so on to the South region. Duke and either North Florida or Robert Morris. I like Bobby Moe as much as anybody else, but I think Duke beats them. Might be a closer game than what you expect, but I think Duke takes care of business. I've said that a lot, but I mean that's kind of what it is. You're surviving an advance. You're putting a team down and you're moving on. San Diego State, St. John's. I like St. John's. San Diego State is not that good of a team this year. I just don't think I don't think San Diego State. I like Steve Fisher. He's a good coach, but at the same time, I don't think he's got a very talented team this year. I think St. John's takes care of it. Steve Lavin's a good coach, and I think he takes care of business there. Let's see here. Utah and Stephen F. Austin. Utah's been kind of up and down all year. They played well in the Pac-12 championship. That being said, I just don't. I don't see Stephen F. Austin beating them. I think Utah moves on there. Georgetown and Eastern Washington. I think this could be another 13/4 upset. Georgetown. John Thompson III has not had a good time winning. He has not had. Oh wait, I didn't pull that back. Now we'll change it a little bit. Anyway, sorry. Georgetown. I don't know. It's hard for me to pick a team coached by John Thompson III in the tournament because he has not done very well in the tournament. But at the same time, Georgetown, I think, is just too much for Eastern Washington. I have not watched Eastern Washington play, but so I don't know if they're good at all. But we'll see. SMU against UCLA, the battle of the initials. SMU, Larry Brown. I'll tell you this much: I watched UCLA get throttled by Kentucky earlier this year on TV. I mean, the score at halftime was 41-7. I mean, UCLA has problems scoring. They're not a very good team. I still don't know how they made it into the field. I think SMU is athletic, so I think they take out UCLA, and I don't think they have any problems doing it. Iowa State over UAB. Yes, I think that happens. I don't think UAB has any issues. Or I'm sorry, I don't think Iowa State has any issues with UAB. UAB is just they're an okay team that did very well and made it in based on winning their conference tournament. Let's see. Next, Iowa and Davidson. I like Fran McCaffrey. I think he's a decent coach. That being said, I do like Davidson. I think I've picked one other 10 to win. I think I want to take Davidson. Actually, no, I'll take Iowa in this game. I just don't know enough about Davidson to really pick them over Iowa. And I've watched Iowa play a few games this year, and they're a good team. They deserve to be in the field. Gonzaga, North Dakota State. I watched North Dakota State play UMKC last year. I know it's a little bit different team, but I don't like the style that North Dakota State plays, so I'm going to take Gonzaga over North Dakota State. Excuse me. And that gets us to the round of 32. Let's see, Duke and St. John's. I think Duke handles St. John's. I like Steve Lavin's team, but I just don't think they can put up enough of a fight to take down Duke. And then, I guess, around to 32, Georgetown, Utah. Utah is, like I said, they've been really up and down all year. Like some games they look great, some games they don't look good at all. So I'm going to go with Georgetown. Georgetown over Georgetown over Utah. Although that's John Thompson III. I'm taking Utah. Sorry, it's tough for me to pick John Thompson III. I think he's a really good coach in the regular season, but something happens in March and he just can't seem to get over that hump. SMU, Southern Methodist, and Iowa State. Like I said, I like Iowa State. I like Larry Brown coaching SMU. I've watched Iowa State play a lot this year in the Big 12. They can be a very streaky team, but I think they play defense decently too. SMU, I don't know, plays a whole bunch of defense. That being said, I think SMU and Larry Brown get an upset here. I think they beat Iowa State. Iowa State, if they go cold, they can get beat. And I think they definitely can go cold at any given moment's notice. Let's see here. After that, Iowa, Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga is going to be one of the more interesting teams to watch this year. Gonzaga is whatever. Anyway, I think Gonzaga is one of the more interesting teams to watch. I love Kyle Wiltshire, former Kentucky guy. He's fantastic. He should be a first-team All-American. He can't play defense with a lick, but he's a really good player. SMU, I think, runs into problems with Wiltshire and with Pangos, and I think Gonzaga beats a very, very talented SMU team. Moving on, let's see. Let's go to the top Sweet 16 matchup. Duke and Utah. Duke got the easiest bracket again, so I think Duke makes it over Utah. I don't think they have any problems putting the Utes away. And SMU and Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga, they could have a really tough time playing an athletic team like SMU. So I really want to pick Gonzaga. I really do. I probably should. But at the same time, my picks look pretty chalk at this point, so I'm just going to go SMU here. And now, while I hate this, I got to pick Duke. Duke makes it to the Final Four because SMU, I don't think they're offensively powered enough to take out Duke. Duke plays no defense whatsoever. Unfortunately, every single team in their bracket, for the most part, really doesn't play offense very well. So I think that's going to be the problem. All right, so we got the Final Four set. We got Kentucky against Arizona on one side, and we got Oklahoma Duke on the other. Like I said at the beginning, I think Kentucky's winning this all. I think Kentucky plays Arizona in a very, very interesting and very, very fun matchup. Arizona matches up athletically very well with Kentucky. I think Kentucky's a better team, though, and they have the best athlete. I think Willie Cauley-Stein is amazing. That guy is a freak. Andrew Harrison is running the point very well for Kentucky. Even though they've got Caleb Tarchewski and they've got Stanley Johnson on Arizona, I just don't see them getting past Kentucky. I think Kentucky just overwhelms them with their defense and with their scoring if everybody's hitting on all cylinders. And I think by the time they get to the Final Four, I think they will be. I think that'll be the toughest game that Kentucky has all tournament is here in the Final Four. On the other side, Oklahoma and Duke. I really like I said, I like Oklahoma. I think they're a good team. At the same time, Duke, Oklahoma can have problems scoring, and Duke is if they're hitting threes, they're really good. I think Duke makes it to the final. So you got Kentucky, Duke in the final, and in what is very, very cathartic to me, I think Kentucky beats Duke. Combined total score, I think Kentucky puts up maybe 20 or 30 on them because they can stop Duke, or Duke won't be able to stop them. So I think you got a final score that's maybe somewhere in the 80s. So you'll have, I think 88 to 65 is what I would say. So that makes it, do the math in my head, 153, 88, 65. Yeah, 153. And there we have it. All done. So yeah, so thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Or if you have anything else to say, feel free to post it. Thanks for watching, and see you guys later.